Hello everyone, Ruby Ravel here, my red poncho revealing to you my incarnation as Aleister Crowley's Scarlet Woman, the Whore of Babylon, or, as I am in South Wales, perhaps the moniker, the Concubine of Cardiff would be more appropriate. And today I am here to talk to you about Venus Trine Pluto. Now, as I've said before, Venus in Taurus wants a sensual, earthly love. The kind of love you can reach out and grab and share a pizza with. My personal favourite erotic fantasy that I have had under this transit has been going on a picnic with someone and then making love together in a wildflower meadow to a symphony of birdsong and sweet floral fragrances. That is Venus in Taurus all over, and I would love someone to Venus in Taurus me all over, good God. But Pluto wants something a bit more intense and transformative than a relationship that is merely beautiful and satisfying to one's senses and needs. For worldly security, Pluto wants the kind of love that acts as a crucible to us, where two people's souls are poured into that alchemical vessel and then admixed and stirred together in such a way that they are no longer separate entities, where they have come together to create something entirely new, to take the lead of their base material selves and transmute it into an alchemical gold. This experience of intimacy is not unlike polyphony in music. If you take the core notes of a C major chord, C, E, and G, and play them in isolation, you have notes that, sure, they can sound very pretty and nice in their own, but out of context, they don't have much meaning, they don't have much purpose. But when you play them all together, suddenly you have this rich, magnificent, hopeful, nourishing chord out of which whole symphonies, operas, and concertos can be born. That the relationship between those notes is greater than the sum of their parts. Individually, they are fine, but together they create this thing that has enormous, magnificent potential. And it's the same with relationships. Sure, we can be self-sufficient and get through life surviving just by singing our own note, but when we combine our music, our harmonic potentialities with someone else's, we find that through the unique and individual interfusion of our love with someone else's, that we create this newer entity that is somehow greater than both of us, but which also gives us access to parts of the universe, parts of the human experience, but also parts of experiences of ourselves that we cannot access alone. And in that sense, the romance can serve as this gateway, this passport to other realms with Pluto. Rather than being an access to the heavenly realms, it's an access to the subterranean realms, to the deeper, more intense, more emotionally and passionately charged side of existence that can be tremendously fulfilling, but also sensually and emotionally overawing and overwhelming, where love can be this thing that makes us feel more deeply connected with the very soil of ourselves, but which also exposes to us the danger and dependency of our own passions. When we've tasted that sweet intermixing of the music that we can create with someone else, when we are alone and separate again, when that person has gone off and we are no longer together with them, we become aware of how fragile our notes sound without them, how bare and barren our own music. And we can become addicted to and dependent on the passion and excitement of that music that we create when we give birth to that third entity that is the relationship. And when there's a part of ourselves that is only alive thanks to the vehicle and machinery of the relationship that we are in, that invests the relationship with a greater intensity, but also a greater fragility. If there's a side of ourselves that is only alive when we're with that other person, then we become obsessed with keeping that relationship alive at all costs. Because if that relationship dies and ends, then there is a certain part of us that dies and ends as well, which for all we may know, we may never access again. We may experience a different kind of music and intimacy and wonder and spellbinding curse of love with someone else, but it will never be quite the same as the specific individual alchemical gold that we created through that connection and that connection alone. So when Venus is trining Pluto, the love dial of intensity is ratcheted up quite a few significant notches, but also the sense of danger, of peril, of potential destruction is also dialed up at the same time. The more intense, the more fulfilling, the more overawing what we get from the relationship is, the more the danger, the more the fear of losing that relationship becomes ratcheted up as well. The more special it is, the more incredibly unique it is, the less and less it becomes disposable, and therefore the more afraid we are of anything that could potentially cause it to be disposed of, to be beheaded in the French Revolution of our traumatic romantic lives. Because even though Venus in Taurus by herself is usually prone to very long, deep and attached romantic relationships, she also has a sense, being a goddess of the earth, that love and relationships are abundance. That, sure, I love the apple that has fallen from this tree, but if that apple proves to be a bit too dramatic, a bit too problematic, a bit too complex and fraught for its own good, then I'll find another apple that's a little less complex. And typically when I've seen people who have Venus in Taurus natally, these people never seem to have any problem finding partners. Many of them are serially monogamous and find potential lovers or relationships as easily as most of us might buy a can of baked beans from a supermarket. But with Pluto, the level of attachment increases. This is not a love that is disposable. This is a love that is a gift from the gods, which feels fated, which feels overpowering, but oh my God, it's also like a curse as well, because it's the kind of love that does not let you rest. It's the kind of love that keeps you awake at night, that resurrects all the fears and traumas that you have surrounding love and your awareness from your own history of how incredible even the most powerful of loves can be susceptible to the destructibility and frangibility and mortality of all things. This is where some of the power games of love comes into play. When Pluto loves, when it has committed to loving someone in spite of all the fears that it has about the possibility of someone who loves it to control it, the possibility that someone we love could manipulate us, torture us, abduct us, do all kinds of terrible things to us, betray our trust, lie to us, because all of those things are always on the cards whenever Venus and Pluto get together. Pluto wants assurance that somehow this love, and this love in particular, will be strong enough to endure all the different trials, transformations and transfigurations that the world will inevitably put it through. And precisely because the relationship feels so potentially fragile, and because it has so much riding personally on its commitment to this very fragile thing, it therefore feels the need to test it, to test the trust and the strength of the relationship by putting it through certain trials. And this can go different ways depending on one's relationship with Pluto. We can say, okay, I love this person, But how do I know they won't cheat on me with someone else? How do I know they won't betray me? How do I know they won't lie to me? But also, this isn't just about the other person as well. This is also about what I bring to the relationship. I also have to be aware about my own compulsions, my own deeper, darker sides, my own shadow selves that can, despite the best of my intentions, sometimes usurp the throne of my consciousness and make me do things that I am later deeply ashamed of and repentant of. I need to also be in control of my own difficulties and darknesses. So this isn't just about the secrets that I could find out about my partner that might change the relationship considerably. This is also about what they could find about me, what shadows might be lurking under my bed, or what skeletons might be in my closet. And one side of Pluto says, well, I can't let them know about those particular values, those particular things I've loved, those particular experiences or sides of my heart, because they would be horrified. They wouldn't love me anymore if they saw that side of me. That would destroy the relationship for good. It's much better that I try and censor and shut off and repress that side of me as much as possible, and then I can be sure that that person will carry on loving me. But then the deeper part of Pluto says, oh, no, honey. No, I'm not satisfied with that. I told you before, I want raw, real, honest, brutal, to the very depths, de profundis, love. And if someone is loving me for an illusion, for a fake, artificial demiurge that I have presented them with, then that's not it. That's not true love. That is creating a barrier between me and the thing that I love. And how can I truly love passionately? How can I love in a balls-to-the-wall, flaming inferno, straight to the depths of Satan manner, if there's that barrier there? I want to break that down. If this relationship is to be the love, to be the enduring passion that I really hope it will be, then I do need to tell them these things. I do need to expose them to the darker, more troubling sides of my heart, to my jealousies, to my obsessions, to my compulsions, to my resentments, to my pettinesses, to my fears, to my past traumas. Because if they can see all of these things, if I can array the pantheon of my own personal devils before them and say, you know, that dreamy version of me, that goddess Venus that you love so much, yeah, that's part of me. But if you want her, you got to say hello to these little guys as well. You got to look at all these nasty little imps and goblins and crooks and creeps and be willing to say, yeah, I see those too, and I love them too. And if you can expose all of that to someone and they still love you, then Pluto's like, yeah, this is the one. This is the one. So this is why we associate Venus-Pluto aspects with deep transformation and irrevocable change, because those kinds of revelations, those kinds of deeper exposures of the dungeons of our hearts, of the catacombs and crypts of our painful emotions, those really are the breakthrough moments in a relationship that can either kill it or take it to deeper levels of intimacy, where someone is not just loving the fantasy that we're all very happy to project in the early stages of a relationship, but they can love us to the very roots, to the very soil, to the very infernos and hidden underworlds of ourselves. They can love us not just seeing our sky, not just seeing our pasture meadows and our beautiful lakes and oceans, but also by diving in to our own private crypts and seeing all those corpses and saying, I'm going to love you anyway, because I understand that everyone has this side to them. And somehow, even yours is still beautiful to me. So even though it's a trine and we think about trines being flowing and nice, you know, nothing is never straightforward, easy and nice with Pluto on our side. And So that can be a make or break moment for many kinds of relationships, and not just romantic ones, but also friendships, or very often with the confusing interzone between romance and friendship. Boy, do I know a lot about that. You know, whereas ordinarily Venus in Taurus might say it's not worth making these revelations, it's not worth taking these risks and talking about and airing dirty laundry that is best kept in the airing cupboard. With Pluto on it, it says no, it's all or nothing. Either you love all of me or you get none of me. Either I get a real, true, authentic relationship de profundis, or I'm living a lie, I'm living a disguise, and if you don't find out now, you'll find out at some point later when it's not in my control. And because this is a trine, I would rather take these matters into my own control and reveal these things for myself, or seek out the things that you are hiding for yourself, and feel some satisfaction that at least I know where I am. At least I have looked under those rocks and stones and I have seen the truth of what our relationship could be, or what it was, or what it will be in the future. We will present all this as evidence before the norms, before the Furies, before the Eumenides, and in their wrathful primal wisdom, we will let them decide the outcome. So if we think about Pluto as an outer planet governing some level of fate, then this is a moment where we trust ourselves to fate, where we say, yep, we're going to face all these difficulties and demons now, and if the relationship can survive through them, then it was fated to be, and if it can't, then it is fated to be doomed. And even though I will have to grieve that loss and the letting go, I still now have the freedom to seek out something that is real, and not just something that will crumble beneath my fingers the moment I squeeze it with even a little bit more pressure than usual. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there now because I'm going on a little road trip with a good friend of mine now. Hello! You know who you are if you're watching. Don't want to reveal anyone's names for reasons of confidentiality. You know, Pluto. Pluto likes his secrets. Don't we all, babes? Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. There's a good chance I might do a second parter where I have a bit more time and latitude to go deeper into the connotations of this most interesting of aspects. But yeah, please share your own Venus-Pluto stories with me, or how you might feel this is playing out in your own love life and relationship at the moment. Feel free to email me if you want any astrological advice with those relationships. You can follow me on Instagram, you can support me on Patreon, or you can not do those things. You can carry on a free, liberated existence unencumbered by me. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the snuffling for truffles in the underworlds that you share with your lovers. And you will be hearing from me again soon.